So this is something I think a lot of us assumed was kind of going on for a while, but we haven't gotten any official confirmation about it until now. Censorship in games is something that has always been a problem in this industry, not just because it gets in the way of player-developer relations. Obviously, developers want to make sexy games with gratuitous violence, and we want to play those games, but it too often seems like the people deciding what you should be able to play just have no clue about what they're talking about, as I believe is in this case with Sony's new guidelines that specifically relate to sexual content in games. Which I'm sure shocks you, right? That it's the sexual stuff that's the problem. We have people ripping each other's limbs off, hell, smashing their opponent's head through their body and out their ass in Mortal Kombat. But we get some supple digital D-cups bouncing around and it's all, oh my god, will someone think of the children? I've noticed it, I'm sure many of you have as well. PS4 versions of games getting censored, sometimes in weird ways. The one that comes to my mind most recently was DMC5, where they had the Trish butt sequence censored, only from the PS4 version. It was completely unaltered on the Xbox One and PC. And just recently, Sony has come out and given official word about what's going on in a recent report by the Wall Street Journal. A Sony spokeswoman confirmed that the company has established its own guidelines so that creators can offer well-balanced content on the platform, and gaming does not inhibit the sound growth and development of young people. The Wall Street Journal writes, this is allegedly a result of executives at the company being afraid the sale of sexually explicit games may hurt its global reputation. We're starting off with a think of the children argument. I wasn't kidding. Well, there are these little things called ratings for games. You may have heard of them. They range from E to M, and there's also things like 18 and over and adults only for the extremely explicit games. And titles with over-sexualized content are going to end up with an M rating or higher. So kids aren't allowed to buy them anyway. And I'm not saying that means they won't necessarily ever get their hands on them, but at that point it falls on the parents. You know, it's up to the parents to decide what their kids should be playing. It shouldn't be up to the industry to parent their kids, and all players certainly shouldn't be losing out because these people can't bother to read a couple words on the back of the box. As with all forms of entertainment, this is a garbage argument. We can't have everything be the Mickey Mouse Club because a kid may see it at some point. Stupid. But we're just getting started. The Wall Street Journal points to two main reasons for the new policy based on conversations with unnamed Sony officials. The first is the rise of the Me Too movement. The second is the growing ubiquity of streaming platforms like Twitch and YouTube, where sexually explicit games coming out of Japan can find a global audience. How terrible that these games can reach players on a larger scale. We gotta stop that. Sony is concerned the company could become a target of legal and social action, a Sony official in the US told the Wall Street Journal. So, the Me Too movement? Is someone going to accuse the game of sexually harassing them? Maybe if that was the subject of the games, if these were games about, like, rape? And sure, you can be a creep in a lot of these titles, but I kind of throw that in the same category of, like, a Grand Theft Auto. You know, people trying to say, oh, it's a game about killing women, and showing clips of players committing such actions. Just because it's something you can do in a game, that it's possible in the game, doesn't mean that's what the game is about or encourages. I mean, come on. And as far as the video sharing sites, same as with everything else. If you're worried about underage people viewing it, make it age restricted. But in terms of having these more Japanese, more niche games find a global audience, I would think that's a good thing. I actually love the next part. Here's where the Nintendo fanboys can rejoice. The new guidelines are in contrast to Nintendo, which told the Wall Street Journal that sexually explicit games can be sold on the Switch as long as they receive a rating from a national agency like the Entertainment Software Ratings Board, the ESRB. Platform holders actually haven't ever released any games that the board has given an adults-only rating to, so they're saying they've yet to see a game that even received the harshest rating. But M-rated games can have some sexual content and are common on all platforms. I mean, yeah, this is how it should be. You just have to get a rating, then it's up to the stores to not sell to minors, and of course, like I said, the parents to actually parent their children, which I know is asking a lot these days. They also give another example here, the adult visual novel Nekopara Volume 1, which includes partial nudity and the option to pet female characters using a visual cursor, released on the Switch last summer with a rating of mature, 17+, while the PS4 version was delayed until November. When it finally came out, fans reported several changes that made it less sexually explicit, including extra steam in bath scenes, and the removal of a slider players could use in the other versions to make characters' breasts jiggle more. Jesus, they basically made the game unplayable. If you follow my channel, you know I've never been a fan of censorship in games. While I honestly don't think many of these changes necessarily ruin the experiences, their actual removal and the reasoning behind it rarely make any sense. And I do believe, as pervy as it may be, you should want to respect the creator's vision. And obviously, having to undergo these reviews where you're not sure what's going to be deemed too sexual or not, again, as they've proven it doesn't really matter about the rating, it's going to make development harder. As the article mentioned, PS4 versions of some of these games being delayed to censor the parts Sony has deemed too sexual. And this will likely deter them from even trying to get them into the PS4 versions in the future, or may even stop them from putting the games on the platform at all. And I do believe the only legitimate fear I could see Sony having here is possibly some weak-ass hit piece done about them, about how they allow these games to be on their platform. And given this day and age, I know people are dumb enough to cry about boobs in the visual novels or whatever. But still, the games have to get an official rating. As the article states, these games are going uncensored on other platforms. So even if someone did try to point the finger at Sony and the PS4 and be like, oh, you allow this game, all you have to do is say, oh, the game is the same on other platforms. It's the same on Nintendo Switch, the system that's heralded as the family-friendly platform. Done. Like I said at the start, I always find it funny how particularly in the West, we have such a problem with sexual content, but virtually no issue with violence. You can think of the most gory, over-the-top, gruesome action you can, and as long as there's no nipples shown in it, you're good to go. In that sense, I think this is more of a problem about our perception of what is or isn't okay to portray in media, but that's also what the ratings board is for, to let customers know what they're getting into when they buy your games. And beyond that, if it, say, gets into the hands of children, it's not the problem of the developers or the publishers. They already did their due diligence. Now, does that mean it should be a free-for-all, everything should be permitted? No, but again, we leave it up to the ratings board. And if we are going to say certain sexual things aren't allowed, I do believe it should be comparable to the violence that we allow, which, once more, I don't think any of these games, many of which are very niche, by the way, these visual novels are not mainstream, but if you compare them to what is allowed in the violence department in the mainstream, again, a game like Mortal Kombat, I think these crackdowns are just so ridiculous. Literally, all this is going to do is turn people off of your platform, both developers and players. The developers aren't going to want to deal with this nonsense, having to alter the game, have it delayed and everything to get the title released on your platform. And players aren't going to want, they're certainly not going to want to wait for what will certainly be in their minds an inferior version as a result of your tampering. All it's going to do is make platforms like Nintendo Switch that aren't doing these things seem more attractive. So good work, I guess. Anyway, with that, this video's a wrap. Let me know your thoughts on Sony's new censorship push in the comments. Do you think we need to hide the boobies to protect the children? And do you think it'll make fans of these games more likely to buy and support them on different platforms like the Nintendo Switch? Hey guys, I hope you enjoyed this discussion of Sony's new sexual content guidelines. If you're new to the channel, please consider subscribing. And if you want to keep the conversation going, hit me up on Twitter, @JohnnyZakari. And join my Discord, ChiGuy and Friends. Link to both in the description below. And as always, thanks for watching.